A 725-kilometer highway. Over 80 women, most of them Indigenous. Most of them were never found. The police had suspects. The government had files. And then, someone sat down at a keyboard and deleted everything. This is Canada's Highway of Tears, and the people in power have been hoping you never hear about it. CTA. If this case already has your attention, hit that like button right now. And before we go any further, I want to ask you something in the comments. Did you already know about the Highway of Tears? Or is this the first time you are hearing about it? Northwestern British Columbia, Canada. A single highway stretches 725 kilometers from the Pacific port city of Prince Rupert to the inland city of Prince George. Its official name is Highway 16. Locals call it something else entirely. Dense forests on both sides. No lighting, no traffic cameras. 23 First Nations communities bordering the road. For decades, no public transportation, no cell service, nothing. The communities along this highway are among the poorest in Canada. For many residents, hitchhiking was not a choice. It was the only option. To get to work, to reach a hospital, to visit family, you stood on the side of the road and you waited. And sometimes, the person who stopped was the last person who should have. This is not just a road. This is a 725-kilometer corridor that swallowed women for over 5 decades, while the system designed to protect them looked the other way. Story flow. It began in 1969. The highway had just been completed. A 27-year-old mother of 2 named Gloria Moody was last seen leaving a bar in Williams Lake on October 25th. Her body was found the next day. Nobody was ever charged. The following year, 18-year-old Micheline Perre disappeared near Hudson's Hope. Her body was found in August 1970. Another unsolved case. Another family left with nothing. By 1974, the pattern was already forming. 3 women vanished or were murdered within months of each other. Gail Ways, 19, was last seen hitchhiking in October 1973. Her remains found 6 months later. Pamela Darlington, also 19, was found murdered in a Kamloops park that same November. And Monica Ignace, just 15 years old, was walking home alone in a snowstorm near Terrace in December 1974. Her body was found 4 months later in a gravel pit. She had been strangled. Then came May 1978. A 12-year-old girl named Monica Jack disappeared while riding her bike near Merritt, British Columbia, the youngest victim. Her remains would not be found for another 18 years. The man responsible would not face justice for nearly 4 decades. Through the late 1970s and into the 1980s, the murders continued, and 2 serial killers were already operating in the region. Edward Dennis Isaac murdered at least 3 women in the Prince George area between 1981 and 1982. Jean Kovac, Roswitha Fuchsbichler, and Nina Joseph. Fuchsbichler was only 13 years old. Isaac later told police he killed her to see what it felt like. Brian Peter Arp was operating in the same region, murdering Marnie Blanchard in 1989 and Therese Umphrey in 1993. Both killers were eventually convicted, but here is the critical detail. Despite 2 confirmed serial killers operating in the same corridor, every case along Highway 16 was still being investigated individually. No linkage, no coordination. Each murder treated as if it had nothing to do with the one before it. Then in August 1989, 2 cases arrived that would come to define everything about this highway. Alberta Williams, 24, disappeared in the early morning hours of August 26th after being last seen at a pub in Prince Rupert. Her naked body was found weeks later, 37 kilometers east of the city. Strangled, sexually assaulted. And here's the detail that should never be forgotten. Before her body was even discovered, Bloody clothes matching what she wore that night were found near the Prince Rupert Ferry terminal. The RCMP seized them. Those clothes were likely destroyed. Evidence that could have changed everything, gone before the investigation had even fully begun. That same month, the entire Jack family vanished. Ronald and Doreen Jack, their 9-year-old son Russell, and their 4-year-old son Ryan. Ronald had met a stranger at a pub who offered him a job at a logging camp. He called his mother at 1:30 in the morning from a resort 50 kilometers west of Prince George, said they were on their way. That was the last anyone ever heard from any of them. No bodies, no suspects, no answers. An entire family erased. 15-year-old Delphine Nicole called her uncle at 10 p.m. to say she was hitchhiking home from Smithers to Telqua. She was never seen again. Her cousin Cecilia had disappeared the year before under almost identical circumstances. 2 cousins, same highway. Neither case was solved. By the mid-1990s, the pace was accelerating. June 1994, 16-year-old Ramona Wilson disappeared hitchhiking to a friend's house. Her remains were found 10 months later near the Smithers airport. July 1994, 15-year-old Roxanne Thyara vanished from Prince George. Her body was found in the bush near Burns Lake. December 1994, 15-year-old Alicia Germain found murdered behind an elementary school off Highway 16. 3 teenage girls, 6 months, all unsolved. October 1995, Lana Derrick, 19, last seen at a gas station near Thornhill, traveling home, never arrived. Then came June 2002, and a moment that exposed something the system had been hiding in plain sight for 33 years. Nicole Hoar, 25, a tree planter from Alberta, disappeared while hitchhiking west of Prince George. Within days, her case was featured in the Globe and Mail, the Vancouver Sun, and the Edmonton Journal. It was the first Highway of Tears case to receive national media coverage. Nicole Hoar was white. For over 3 decades, Indigenous women had been vanishing on this highway. It took a white woman going missing to make the national news. Indigenous advocates did not stay silent about what that meant. September 2005, Tamara Chipman, 22, last seen hitchhiking near the Prince Rupert Industrial Park. Her aunt Florence Naziel, the woman who had coined the term Highway of Tears in 1998, walked 143 kilometers of the highway in her memory. February 2006, Ayala Sarik Auger, 14 years old, last seen on surveillance footage walking toward her home at 1 a.m. 8 days later, her body was found in a ditch along Highway 16, 20 kilometers east of Prince George. And then September 2018, Jessica Patrick, 18 years old, a member of the Lake Babine First Nation, a mother to an 18-month-old daughter. Her father, Mike Balxer, had seen her just days before at a county fair, watched her on the rides with her daughter. Glowing, he said. She had agreed to move back in with him. Her last words to him were, "Okay, Dad, I'll come live with you. I'll see you in 3 days." He never saw her again. Her body was found on Hudson Bay Mountain on September 15th. 2 weeks after she disappeared, nature had been doing what nature does. The casket had to be closed. Her father drove her remains back along the same highway that took her. He said he could smell death in the hearse, but thousands of people lined the highway that day to pay their respects, an entire community standing in silence for a girl the system had failed. Breakdown. In 1981, the RCMP organized a conference specifically to examine the growing number of unsolved murders along Highway 16. 40 detectives from British Columbia and Alberta attended. Similarities were identified: suspicious vehicles, recurring names, persons of interest, and then nothing formally followed. For the next 24 years, cases continued to be investigated individually. No dedicated unit, no coordinated strategy. It was not until the fall of 2005 that the RCMP finally created Project E-Pana. The unit started with 9 cases and used VICLAS, the Violent Crime Linkage Analysis System, to identify patterns across cases. The geographic scope eventually expanded from 724 kilometers to over 1,500 kilometers, pulling in sections of highways 97 and 5. At its peak between 2009 and 2010, E-Pana had 70 officers and over $5 million in annual funding. The unit collected 750 DNA samples, conducted 2,500 interviews, investigated 1,413 persons of interest, and administered 100 polygraphs. By any measure, it was a serious investigative operation. Then the cuts came. By 2013, the budget had been slashed to $806,109. The task force was reduced from 70 officers to 12. The RCMP deputy commissioner warned publicly that further reductions would damage the investigations. The cuts continued anyway. There were genuine breakthroughs. In 2012, DNA evidence linked deceased American serial killer Bobby Jack Fowler to the 1974 murder of Colleen McMillan. Fowler had died in an Oregon prison in 2006, before he could ever be charged. He remained suspected in the murders of Gail Ways and Pamela Darlington, but without conclusive evidence, those cases stayed open. In 2014, an undercover RCMP operation produced a confession from Gary Taylor Handelin, a convicted violent sexual predator who admitted to murdering 12-year-old Monica Jack in 1978.